I mean, when you look at the numbers, it says 500 million. Okay, so, but when you think about nationwide, and is asking for all humanity to come together as one, you know, with a fair law, I mean, if we would all just come together, bring the peace and harmony, the righteousness, all the passion and the one faith just come together. I mean, you know, we know that there are many gods. People believe in many different names of God, but it all has the same purpose, the same righteousness, the same do the right things to each other, among each other. And if not, it becomes like cancer and it can spread without any type of, let's say, if you will, any type of cure if we don't maintain and stick to what's righteous and what's, you know, what God has to say for all people and all mankind. And, you know, we just come together as one, as a unit, as one body. And the balance and all of our personal being and all our personal thoughts would come together as one, you know, if we all come on one accord. Okay?
What do you think about the part where it almost says, guide reproduction wisely, improve fitness and diversity, but then it says unite humanity? Like, who is to unite humanity?
Yeah. Guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. Unite humanity with a living new language.
It's kind of different when you read it that way, isn't it?
It is different. It is different, but it reminds me of the Tower of Babel, or some people may say Babel. You know, when they were trying to build that, and it was you had so much diversity. Well, at first it was all one cause to get to the heavens, but then, you know, once God gave them the diversity in the language, and then it was like, okay, we can't understand one another.
Right.
So we all need to come together, and I just believe that unite humanity is within our mindset.
Right.
Within our mindset, we have to do what's right. We have to just believe and just trust one another, and we have to go by faith. You know, we have to go back to the old time of tradition and how people used to do things, and how we all should mean something to each other. We all should mean something, you know. And so, but yeah, but that's
for sure.
Right, exactly. But yes, but that's pretty deep. Guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity.
And then unite humanity
with a living new language.
Language. And what is that language? Is it
God.
literal?
I believe if we all keep our mindset on God, and that's doing the right thing.
Being good.
Yes, doing good to each other, among each other, and for a good purpose.
What do you think about the part where it says, let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court, meaning almost as a guide to rulers, you can have your nations
Right.
and do your thing, but as far as any kind of conflict, it needs to be in front of the world, not maybe one dictatorship
Exactly.
and then one democracy.
Exactly.
I don't know if that's what it means. It's kind of, it's I just think there's much deeper meaning.
Right. Right. And you know what? Whoever
Like it's either for whoever's ruling,
Right.
you know, and then there's a kind of a when you talked, I liked what you had to say about being not a cancer on the earth and talking about hatred
Oh yeah.
and all those things that are just as sickening
Right.
as pollution,
Right.
or human beings being the cancer on earth with the way they pollute.
Exactly.
Because I never said if it was really a message. It hinted that it was a message of conservation, but to put something like that in the middle of nowhere, to put something like this
Exactly.
in all these different languages.
Right. Exactly.
All right, bye-bye. The child walks up. The little child walks up and is ready to read this. So if you guys would read it, tell me what you think it means. I would love your opinion. Being from Georgia and seeing back in the distance, you see a literal clay road that's not even got gravel on it. That is a road that's barely maintained by the county. This road is okay, but it's also a dirt road till we get to the guide stones.
So you got these dirt roads out here that kind of...
That means there's no connecting roads. There's only this highway that takes you to it. So if you're driving past it and you're actually like if you're in a remote area such as this, you may notice the dirt roads, but you're not going to look off to your left. I mean, there's one little bitty sign that says Guidestone Highway, and there's just farms.
It's just strange they would do it out here in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. And being from Georgia, that means that this is the middle of nowhere. It means you can't get there from that dirt road to the main road. You're not going to get anywhere from here to here. You're really not. You have to come in from this way. There's only one way in, one way out. So, and looking at them from the distance, there's a different set of hieroglyphs on the front, as you see, on the very front as you approach.
Oh yeah, there's... did you see it?
Different.
But did you look at the top there? Did you see the cuneiform at the top?
Yep. And then if you go below, you see the hole, which is beautifully carved at an angle. I want to say it's probably a 35-degree angle, going straight down to the other side, and then there's a hole at the top. So there is an astrological meaning. I would like to know what the astrological meaning is. We're not given that. And if you come...
Maybe it's connected up to Orion, because that's what the pyramids are.
I thought about that. And then if you come over here where they talk about the time capsule, which I think is extremely interesting, there's a time capsule. And the part that's, to me, the most mysterious is not necessarily the group that did it, but why they would put a time capsule over on this side, right here.
Yeah.
Which tells us this is Egyptian hieroglyph. That was actually classic Greek, is what we were trying to make out earlier.
Okay.
Okay, so right here, the pseudonym R.C. Christians. Okay, time capsule. Place 6 feet below this spot. On. To be opened on. And there's nothing. So this is...
Yeah, why didn't
carving.
they put a date where it's supposed to be?
Right, and why not? Because you've already put the center cluster erected where it was.
All right.
Let these guide stones to an age of reason that in Sanskrit on one side. But the point is, why use this specialized writing here? Okay, with obviously the copper. It almost... And then leave this blank right here. There's nothing here.
I almost think the reason why they left it blank is because maybe they're waiting for humanity to follow these rules, and then when that happens, I don't know how long. Because I mean, let's just say we're on a timeline where, because I don't think we're going to see cataclysms and massive destruction. So I mean, the Earth's population is what, close to 7 billion now. I'm assuming anyway. Mm-hmm. So the only way we're going to get down to 500 million people, I mean, obviously people are going to have to learn to procreate.
Let's have guide reproduction. Now,
yeah.
Who's guiding reproduction? That's the question.
Yeah, so I don't think I'm talking about mass abortions here, but...
Right, but guide reproduction. How do you guide reproduction?
Well, it just means be reasonable, with
DNA. How do you guide reproduction? You guide reproduction through DNA.
So
you're not going to get people to stop reproducing.
Yeah.
Human beings aren't going to stop doing that. So who's guiding reproduction? So there's little things that are said in the guide stones that make me question guide reproduction. Who's guiding reproduction? Reproduction has to do with DNA.
Okay. It could...
Here, this might be a good one. From the languages. It lists set up.
Yeah, right.
And then all right here is the physical data.
Interesting.
And the astronomical features I can read. Channels through, it says number 1, the astronomical features. Channel through stone indicates celestial pole. Number 2, horizontal slot indicates annual travel of sun. 3, sunbeam through capstone marks moon time throughout the year. Question, what does that have to do with guiding ourselves in reproduction? Do you see what I mean? What is telling us about the astronomical features and then drilling these astronomical features and then this wonderful kind of message on how to live or how to govern humanity have to do with astronomical features? What's the message in that? I think it's the smaller things we're missing.
Okay. Right.
Okay, the one in English is translated Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Guide reproduction wisely. Improve fitness and diversity. Unite humanity with a living new language. Rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. Avoid petty laws and useless officials. Balance personal rights with social duties. Prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. Be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature.
So, tell me, what do you think this means? At least, what do you think it means for you?
Well, to me, it's a guide for living, but I feel it's more for those who rule to know this. I think that because it was put here in 1980, that 1980 was kind of when people started noticing we were polluting the earth.
Yeah.
So I think this was put here almost in desperation that it had to be done. The thing that I find interesting is if you look around, it is in the middle of nowhere. We have dirt roads, we have farmhouses, we literally have 10 shacks that people are living in. There's very little traffic on the road. We have a surveillance camera here, straight ahead.
So the watchers are, well, actually, we're watching the watchers now.
Right, and another interesting thing is the astronomical up through here. If you go in, through the centerpiece, of course, we have a little vandalism here with an infinity symbol, but through the top right, they said that the sun comes through, projects an image, right, and then it comes on the side of the stone, and then right around the same centerpiece stone, there's a hole that's dug at a certain angle, and if you get the camera through there, I'm not sure if that's for the sun and the moon, because they said one of them is for the moon, or both function for the moon and the sun. So I'm sure it cast a shadow down here. My question is, why put something of such an important message in so many different languages in the middle of nowhere? Almost like I get the impression that only those people that are seeking will find it and understand it. Growing up here in Georgia, I never heard of them till about 5 years ago. So in 1980, I would have been living here. But they seem to keep it pretty hush-hush. This is 30 miles from where I grew up.
Well, when you were younger, when did you first learn about this place?
On a documentary about 5 years ago. And I thought, what in the world? Why have I never heard of this? If something this big is put out here, why put it out in one of the most remote areas of the state? It's not a tourist area. They could have done that in South Georgia. Or the mountains. But no, they chose this place almost as if only those who are brought here will know. I find it interesting that there's a time capsule over there that does not list the date that it's supposed to be open and gives the dimensions and the astronomical alignment. It also gives the weight of each stone.
Okay.
Donated by R.C. Christian, and the Guidestones group wanted to remain anonymous. But it's a lot of money. This is a lot of granite. This was a lot of dirt.
What do they say? It's about $100,000 was what they spent on this monument?
Yeah, it went into, well, I don't know. They held it in an escrow bank.
Yeah, so I guess nobody really knows.
Some like really small town escrow bank so that nobody would know who they were.
Huh.
And
Okay.
the interesting thing, I guess the surveillance maybe is to keep people from tearing it up. But for it just to be out here, and as you can see, this is all farmland around us. There's nothing out here. So it's not going to be something that's going to attract a tourist.
Right.
Now, over here, we have a little bit of history on it. And still, it's not that much history. It says, The story of the Georgia Guidestones began in June 1979 when a stranger identified as Mr. Christian, later R.C. Christian, visited Joe H. Fendley, Sr., president of Elberton Granite Finishing Company, Inc., and indicated that he represented a group of loyal Americans living outside the state of Georgia who wanted to build a monument focused on the theme of conservation. Mr. Christian, who had assumed this pseudonym because he was a Christian, named W.C. Martin, president of the Granite City Bank, as intermediary, to hold funds in escrow for the project, explaining that the Guidestones group, which wished to remain anonymous forever, had selected Georgia because of its excellent granite, mild climate, and heritage of his great-grandmother as a native Georgian. Christian agreed to Martin's request to locate the monument in Elbert County if there were suitable remote site for it, which they found on a hillside at the highest point in Elbert County on the farm of Mildred and Wayne Mullinicks of North Elberton on Highway 77. Finley's company carved the 6-part monument from pyramid blue granite. The Georgia Guidestones consist of 4 granite megaliths set in a paddle wheel arrangement around a central stone, which is surmounted by a flat capstone measuring 19 1/4 feet in height at its highest peak. The stone group measures 17 1/3 feet in width, and its diameter is 65 feet. The overall weight of the 951 cubic feet of granite used is 237, I can't even see the number from the light.
Pounds.
Well, 237,746 pounds. A granite marker west of the Guidestones, which is over there, provides additional data and covers a buried time capsule. Each of the 4 sides of the capstone features the statement of cautionary guidance to humankind in English, Spanish, Swahili, Hindu, Hebrew, Arabic, Chinese, and Russian. And then, of course, in English, the Guidestones specify the following about this number of people living in perpetual balance.
Mm.
And it was dedicated March 22, 1980. It has remained a source of mystery and intrigue to its numerous visitors and those who learn of it from afar. So we've got cameras out here guiding it. We have some really strange hieroglyphics at the top. And then we have the sun coming in from here, from the left side. You can see the rectangular object with a circle that comes down to a center point in the middle. And then there's an angular one. It is very interesting because when you think about like the cultures and the pyramids that they built, they always had these strange holes that would have moonlight or sunlight come through it at various times of the year or various times of the season. How that would relate to all these different languages is a mystery to me. Like, what does the astronomical have to do with, like, what's the message in the astronomical? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And I imagine this is Spanish right here. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's Spanish.
Uh-huh. So there's Spanish. And then one looks like
Maybe Swahili? I don't know. Hindu? No?
I would say Swahili because you see, oop,
I'm getting stuck.
yeah. So that one's probably Swahili.
And then this
So right here.
is, this I don't recognize. This I don't recognize at all. It's very,
I did think one's supposed to be Babylonian Sanskrit, maybe cuneiform. Oh, or Hindi or almost kind of like Cambodian. What is that?
gum that got stuck on my hand.
Oh,
Like, why did you get
I
rid of
don't
it?
know.
I know, let it dry and then it can be picked up, but it's not going to wet.
Oh,
And then this is Hebrew,
okay.
correct?
Yeah, it looks like Hebrew.
And they all say the same thing.
Okay.
Let's go over here.
Sis. That one is probably maybe Persian.
It definitely looks left to right.
Okay.
That's the Chinese.
Is it Chinese or Japanese?
I think it's your Chinese.
Okay.
There's Chinese, Hindu, Swahili, Russian, Hebrew. But I'm trying to think what this one would be. This one looks the Middle Eastern language,
Hmm.
like left to right. Like
So you think this was a message for? Is this really the people that put this up? Is this something for humanity, or maybe a different b- race of beings?
either whoever it would be somebody that ruled worldwide.
Maybe it's
No,
a message to and I hate to use the word Illuminati, but more like the reptilians that infiltrated and controlled the Illuminati. Maybe,
if that's someone's truth,
yeah. If that's
if that's someone's truth.
okay.
I almost think that it's meant for those to come find this thing because it could be put anywhere around DC or Virginia, where people could access it from DC or let's say LA or, places where people commonly visit from other countries. But this is just out in the middle of nowhere.
Hmm.
So it's very odd. But they wanted a remote location. So why a remote location and why use astronomical symbols and signs? I think what's interesting though about it is it's either telling someone how to behave, because especially the part where it says rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. So that's talking about ruling. It says protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts, and all nations to rule internally, meaning they hold on to their internal structure, but they want a world court.
So
So that
it
there's
won't be
more
like a new
balance.
world order.
Exactly. Like let people have that, but it's almost like a gentle way of saying. I thought this was interesting that be not a cancer on the earth.
Because I know, like, I mean, even if you look how cities develop, it's usually the people that have money, the real estate developers and the attorneys and the zoning council. They all approve it based on how much money they can make, but not based on sacred geometry, what's harmonious for its citizens, and what's naturally beautiful.
Yeah, I almost get the impression that it's a guide for um it's something we should know and that this is the way we would like to be, but this is talking about somebody ruling us. I mean, it's talking about telling them how to rule the world and to do it right.
Well, do you think they're doing a good job so far?
No, because we're not following these rules. We don't have just courts.
We don't have,
Yeah, we're wasting our time with petty laws.
yeah.
When you think about it,
I mean, how much?
it was a petty law.
What is like a half a million, 500 million laws now in
Yeah.
the Code of Federal Regulations and
Yeah, and seek harmony with the infinite. So for me, it's almost like if it were meant for here's the logical thing, James. If it were meant for humans to see this and read this and gain wisdom from this, it would be in a place that most humans could come read and gain enlightenment from. Do you follow me?
yeah.
But for it to be out here with camera surveillance, dirt roads where, the average person is probably, I don't know if they become spiritual or even asked about it or just thought it was an eccentric millionaire
Hmm.
dedicating it to his great grandmother, which I don't believe that's true for some reason.
Well, the rumor is
Dedicated it to her anywhere and said she was a native Georgian.
it was part of Thomas's Paine. Thomas Paine set up a secret society, and that was basically the group. That's the group that financed this. But
Rosicrucians?
I don't know. I don't think it might be connected to the Rosicrucians, but we don't really know for sure.
See, to me, though, like the secret society, they know something. They know
Mhm.
something.
Well,
But I think that, I mean, how many human beings are going to think of the Guidestones? How many are going to come drive out here? I mean, who's going to come all the way to North Georgia
Yeah.
and see this when it's amazing?
Right.
And the message, and in all these different languages. Could it be that whoever it's for, I don't know, this part up here, where it says rule, allow internal rule, but resolve things fairly, basically, in a world court. It's not about how an individual should live. It's almost as if how individuals should be ruled. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like how to set up courts and protect people and nations and rule passion. Unite humanity. So that's not an individual mission, right?
Right. We ask the universe to bring healing and balance to planet Earth. We ask that the negative energies that are being pumped into the planet through all the negativity of the planet will be neutralized and brought into balance. We ask that the wisdom of the Guidestones could resonate into the Earth's ley lines and into people's consciousness to live in proper balance with Mother Earth. And we ask for peace on planet Earth and the abundance and prosperity of balanced living. And anything else, Bridget, you think we should add to that?
No, I think you got it.
Yeah. And so when you do these meditations, it's one thing to just ask. It's another thing to visualize. So when I say visualize abundance and prosperity, what would that mean to you? For instance, it could mean seeing a beautiful home or beautiful cities laid out in tune with sacred geometry. It could mean basically all the road grids all torn up, and instead we're using teleportation technologies. It could mean beautiful crystal cities. Of course, that may be couple thousand years down the road. We may not get there in our lifetime, or we may, depending on whether they release life extension technologies. But ultimately, you need to see yourself there, and you need to visualize it and feel what would it feel like to live in these cities where people are living in harmony with one another, and where countries respect each other. They don't invade each other to get their resources, and people and governments respect their people and not try to view them as a resource to be extracted, but instead something that can be cooperated, where all people can cooperate and work together in peace and harmony. And that's what the world that we need to manifest here on Earth to bring about heaven on Earth. Because ultimately, we can't expect anyone else to do it. We got to do it ourselves. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we need to go out and run for office and all this stuff, but we can help bring harmony to the planet Earth by beginning by looking within. So anyway, well, thanks everybody for listening in, and until next time, bye-bye. Bridget has had certain memories of wearing some kind of skin-tight black suit and being teleported out, I believe anyway, to some kind of expensive hotel where she was tasked to retrieve some kind of object.
You have this weapon. From the front of the weapon, it's going to look like this. There are round, I'm not an artist, buttons, okay, with different settings on the buttons like this. I don't know if you call them diodes or buttons. From the side, the weapon is looking like this. With just a little top half. From this is kind of a circular dial, okay? The energy that it does when it shoots looks like translucent circles that go to the victim, okay? Here, right here, are these buttons or dials, got it? But you can't see them from the side. You have to squeeze, on this side, you have to squeeze the entire weapon to get this to shoot, okay? Which goes in that trajectory.
How big is that?
Uh,
What do we say, about 4 inches by 2 inches?
If we're comparing it to this, I get to squeeze it.
Did it have any logos or labels on it?
No, it's not that big. It's like a black box here, and it feels like a black box, like a black hard computer box, battery charger to a laptop. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
This is what you see from the front. From the side, this comes down, so it does look like a black type of box. And there's some kind of round thing here, and there's the buttons are here, but you can't see them from the side. They're inside or they're contained. So if you're shooting it, your fingers would go here, around here, wrapping around here, right? But you have to squeeze it. So the hand goes this way.
Yeah.
And the finger would squeeze. The first button got stuck. So I used this one, the second one. But you can also adjust the levels on these buttons, but this button got stuck. So I used this button twice. And it was like an invisible circular plasma beams or something.
All right.
But the gun was, well, that's probably a little bit better to scale. And then this was a little bit fatter. It's just hard to draw it like that. It's like if I put it up here, I could make it, see? It's just a little extension.
Okay.
It's more like this, and then there's the round dial type thing, and it emits these invisible things. This is horribly crude.
Right.
Okay.
Sure. And so fast forward to the next scene. Bridget is in some kind of very elitist looking condo. And she appears to be in some kind of maid outfit. And she has been tasked to retrieve some kind of mirror that this cabal family has been using to monkey around in the timelines. We're not quite sure exactly how it's used or how they used it, but apparently it's not being used for the benefit of humanity. So she was tasked to retrieve that as well. And unfortunately, there was this a little snag in the process, and she wasn't able to complete the job. All right. And so let's go fast forward. And then there was another set of aggressions that I did with Bridget, and she recalls an entity that she worked with by the name, well, she called him a captain. I can't even pronounce the guy's full name, but he was basically an 8-foot tall reptilian, a benevolent reptilian. And it is my belief the guy is actually from the future, and he's been sent back in time to work with us. I hate to call us my labs because I don't really know what you would call us, but us experiencers that have been working with these ETs to retrieve alien technology. So you could call it like we're part of like a special military force that has been trying to bring the cabal under control, but we're experiencers and we have certain insights, so that's why they've used us. At least that's kind of like what we're able to pick up here. So these beings from the future have been contacting her. Well, we think possibly from the future, but it's not just these beings. Apparently there was also some kind of insectoid-like creature. So thanks everybody for listening in.
I am related by blood to a very high-ranking German official. I will not state the individual's name because it would bring threats against my family, and that's not what I'm talking about today. I'm talking about the Georgia Guidestones. So my name, Jimmy Payne, is just one of many names that I use. This is one of my working names. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the early years, and I'm going to start explaining how I knew Dr. Herbert Kirsten. Now, he is the man, he uses the alias Robert Christian, and he is the man that went to the Granite Company and ordered the markers for this monument. All right, back after World War II, okay, when Germany lost, their scientists were brought over to the United States. And von Braun, the rocket scientist from NASA, um, he had 14 tons of paperwork. I'm talking 14 tons of paperwork in a mine over in, I believe it's over in Poland. And the U.S. Special Forces was able to get the paperwork and bring the paperwork back to the United States for the rocket program, the V2 rocket program. And so when von Braun and the scientists were brought over to the United States, uh, von Braun was put in charge of NASA. Okay, well, but I'm going to talk about another gentleman. His name is Arthur Rudolph. Now, Arthur Rudolph was an officer in the German space program, and he also was brought over to the United States, and he was in charge of the NASA program. He was actually over von Braun. But what happened with Arthur Rudolph, he still had some family over in Germany, and the Israeli government wanted Arthur Rudolph to be extradited back to Germany to face war crimes. Now, this is in the early 70s that this all went on, and he ended up having to renounce his American citizenship, and he was extradited back to Germany, and he ended up serving time in prison. So this kind of this had a ripple effect upon the German scientists within the United States. And so they had, they knew even after the war they weren't safe. Now, the man that I'm most familiar with is General Major Walter Durenberger. He was a SS officer. He was also in the rocket program over in Germany. He was my handler. I grew up under General Walter Durenberger. And I basically was trained in German intelligence, but I work with American intelligence. And that is him. And but what happened was, as these men grew older, they, everyone asks themselves, who am I? Where am I from? And where am I going when I die? It's a form of spiritualism. And so this is the basics of where we're coming from on this group of individuals. So what happened was Dr. Kirsten was a surgeon, and he is the gentleman I spoke earlier, being the RC Christian guy. But back when Dr. Kirsten was young, right after the atomic bombs were dropped over in Japan on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, when the radioactive fallout fell upon the population, and he was ordered by the United States military to go over there, and they set up a hospital, and they were treating the civilians that had been burned and had also radiation sickness. So he's a surgeon, and he's gone into a nuclear blast area, and he is treating patients. So he had this knowledge about radiation and cancer and blood disorders. And basically, he was an Area 51 doctor back in the States here in later years. But Dr. Kirsten was secretly treating von Braun. Now, von Braun died of kidney cancer about 3 years prior to the Georgia Guidestones being erected. But Dr. Kirsten, would make him comfortable where he wouldn't be in pain. And, von Braun had he had terminal cancer. And, but he also treated other German officials. It just wasn't von Braun that he treated secretly. So he was the unofficial doctor of all these German scientists that had came to United States. Okay, so as these men grew older, me being in German intelligence, I would travel around the United States, and I would go from base to base and from city to city, and I would interact with the different scientists and others, technicians, and carry information back and forth. So what happened here when R.C. Christian, the alias R.C. Christian, went to Georgia and started the process of the construction of the Georgia Guidestones. All the people who were in this rocket program remained anonymous because they were still scared of what had happened to Arthur Rudolph being extradited. And the Georgia Guidestones has nothing to do with the New World Order. The Georgia Guidestones is based upon the Knights Templar. All right, as you recall, or if you read the history of the Knights Templars, the Pope had the Knights Templars all rounded up and executed. And but that is the religion of the Knight Templars. So we're talking of a medieval European religion, the tie to these Georgia Guidestones. It has nothing to do with the New World Order. Now, when the Guidestones, prior to the Guidestones being put down, there was like about a 4-foot by 10-foot time capsule was made up, and certain documents were put into the time capsule. Now, I do not know what's all in the time capsule. I do know this much, is that we're going to have a nuclear war in the future. And it was understood that after the nuclear war, that the time capsule would be opened, and we're all are going to be struggling. And when I say we, I'm talking to the human race. This is worldwide. All right, you're looking at several billion people dying. And this is a time of a spiritual awakening. And what's in the Guidestones, what's in the time capsule, is basically things that would help an individual out spiritually. So I don't want anybody to get the idea that the Georgia Guidestones are tied to Satanism. It's not. Now, I'm not, and I want to point this out, I'm not a member of that religious organization. I am Paiute, Native American Paiute religion is what I take after. Okay, so I that is my religion. So I'm not defending what the Knight Templars religion is. I'm just saying I know what it was all about. And what happened in Georgia, you had two political candidates. You had Stacey Adams hollering. She wanted the Confederate monuments torn down, a Stone Mountain erased, and then she lost her election. And there's a lot of individuals upset about that. Antifa and Black Lives Matter are upset about that. And then you had this other candidate, this Taylor woman that was running for governor, I believe, and she was saying that the Georgia Guidestones was satanic, and that if the first thing that she would do is she would be elected, she was going to go in there and she was going to have it bulldozed down, and that was going to be her first thing that she was going to do. Now, so you have these political hacks that are stirring up their political base, and they're trying to bring notoriety upon themselves because they have no political platform of reform ready. So they're attacking this monument. Okay, now if you start blowing up monuments, it doesn't stop at the Georgia Guidestones. You can always have people that's going to disagree. They're going to go around, they're going to say, well, the statue of Jesus Christ offends me, and or the cross offends me, or this statue of George Washington offends me. See, it doesn't just stop at the Georgia Guidestones. And so I would like for people to stop pointing at one another, stop arguing with one another. You know, this has nothing to do with the New World Order. And I would like for the time capsule, since it was not wanted, I would like for the state of Georgia to let that times capsule, let's bring it back to Nellis Air Force Base and rebury it on federal property. That is, if someone within the Nellis Air Force Base would allow that. If they won't allow that, then at least bring it to Mississippi and let's bury it. I know of a base here in the state of Mississippi that it can be reburied at, an abandoned base, and let the location be kept secret. But I don't think it would be a good idea to open the capsule up before this nuclear war, because if you do that, then you start to define a timeline. And right now, there's a reason why there's not a date on that time capsule. That's why the date was left open, because the event has not occurred yet. It will occur, and when it does, the United States would be invaded. There'll be a lot of people dying worldwide, and mankind would be knocked down on its knees.
Okay, thank you very much, Jimmy. So I'm gonna go ahead and just stop sharing my screen there. Yeah, so I guess we could maybe start going to some questions if you're ready for that.
Yes.
All right. Well, so maybe the first question we could start off with is, what do you think was buried in the time capsule?
What was put in there by the scientist. Now, a lot of the projects that they were involved in were black ops projects. My concern is if the Chinese or the Russians were to get into the time capsule, it could do some damage to those research programs. That's the reason why I wanted to bring it back to Nellis Air Force Base and to bury it, possibly we're or either open it up, but let it be opened up under the controlled under a controlled group.
All right. So I guess for the next question. What were the guidestones promoting depopulation in a post-apocalyptic Earth?
It was not promoting anything. What the stones were basically were telling of an event, a horrible event that's going to occur in the near future, in which billions, not millions, but billions of people loses their life. It is basically what it is. It's a guide stone. It's not for, it's not, it has nothing to do with politics. It's just a spiritualness. It doesn't necessarily have to be related to a religion. You can be spiritual, but not be tied to any certain religion. I'm spiritual, but I'm not tied to any certain religion.
All right. I'm just trying to pull up a picture of the first tenet on the guidestone states to maintain humanity under 500 million people in perpetual balance with nature. So that was just it's not meant to kill people off to keep under 500 million, but to work towards that goal. Is that what you think?
With all the interstate structure, the bridges are going to be taken out. You have no fuel for the tractors to get out into the fields. And even if you did, you have no way to refrigerate the food. Okay. Our resources are starting to strain.
All right. Well, I mean, advanced technology that could be averted, but they're not going to want to release any of that anytime soon, as you know. But okay, so let's go into the next one. What was the guidestones promoting eugenics? Because one of the tenets on the guidestones is to keep people like physically fit, you know. So let's see if I can pull that one up. But let's see here. Do you remember which one? Let me see. Guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. There we go. So, what do you think? Is that eugenics?
No, it's not eugenics. This has nothing to do with eugenics. It just, if you have people that if you have somebody that's just you don't want a 500-pound man, you know, you want to remain healthy. Okay. That's what it's all about there. This has nothing to do with eugenics at all. It's just spiritualness. It's one generation telling the next generation, take care of yourself.
All right. Next question. Was the World Court a part of the New World Order plan? So the last one in here is, oh, here it is. Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. What do you think? Is that part of the New World Order?
We go back this New World Order. There is no New World Order. Everything gets knocked down. Everything goes to zero. There is everyone's doing their best just to survive.
All right. Comment from the audience. I don't agree with anything you're saying so far. Stop with the doomsday consciousness. Well, my response to that is that we're talking about the Georgia Guidestones, which is part of that whole doomsday consciousness, because it was a warning message from research from Montauk to help guide humanity in event of that particular timeline. But it doesn't mean we're manifesting it. The way you actually manifest is by through your heart chakra on things that you love. So unless you're a negative person out there, you're not going to be manifesting it unless, like I said. So that doesn't work either, you know. And there's a lot of people out there that, in my opinion, are involved in New Age nonsense. They really don't understand how manifestation works. But so let's go on to the next question here. So who is RC Christian, and are they connected with the Rosicrucians?
RC Christian is it is Dr. Kirsch is who he is. Kirsten. Herbert Kirsten is the same as RC Christian. It's the same man. He just uses an alias. I've been to the man's house in Fort Dodge, Iowa.
And were they part of the Knights Templar, that group, or the Rosicrucians?
Yes, it's based upon the Rosicrucians, as you said, and it is part of the Knights Templars. And as you recall, the Knight Templars were all killed by the Pope on Friday the 13th. That's why Friday the 13th is considered a bad luck day. You know, these people have that were involved with the with the stones were being prosecuted. Their religious beliefs were being prosecuted. This goes back to the Middle Ages, and here we are today. We have political candidates in Georgia. They're raising all kind of ruckus because they have no political platform to make things better. So they're, you know, that's why they bulldoze this monument down, and just to please their fanatic followers. What happens at Area 51 stays at Area 51. We don't interfere with politicians. We don't make political statements. We're just trying to keep things stable